Okay. Okay, I think we're good. Okay, hello. Welcome. Hello again, and welcome to Faith Night Friday. And you know what, guys? I'm just going to jump right in because I remember last week on Friday, I was trying to explain some things and stuff, and time just ran out on me. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to jump right in and just get to the story and read and go on to the commentary. Okay, so again, I am going off of the Bible in 52 weeks. That's what I'm going off of. And we are in chapter in Judges 18 through 21. So this chapter, really grim, guys, a really grim story. And once I read it to you, you'll know why. But then again, a lot of these stories in the Bible, I mean, some are nice and some are not too nice. So, you know, it's really surprising that you don't hear, you hear all the nice stuff, you know, at church and all the good things and stuff, but they don't really talk to you about the really, you know, graphic stuff that goes on in the Word. Okay, so I'm reading out of the Good News Bible, okay, and it's today's English version. Okay, so I am just going to jump right in, and I am just going to start reading. So we were on, I had just finished talking about Micah and the tribe of Dan. I think I spoke about that one last week. And this one, we are going to talk about, it's about the Levite and his concubine. Now, I remember last week, I was trying to find out what the word ephod means, and I did look it up, and the word ephod, I hope I'm saying it right, meant a sleeveless garment worn by Jewish priests. That's what that was. And I'll let you know what the word concubine means after I read you this chapter. Okay? So I'm just going to jump right in and I'm just going to start reading, okay? Okay, so we're on 19, the Levite and his concubine. Okay, let's see if I can have enough light here. Let's try to read this. Okay, so in the days before Israel had a king, there was a Levite living far back in the hill countries of Ephraim. He took a girl from Bethlehem in Judah to be his concubine, but she became angry with him, went back to her father's house in Bethlehem, and stayed there for 4 months. Then the man decided to go after her and try to persuade her to return to him. He took his servants and 2 donkeys with him. The girl showed the Levite the girl that he took to be his concubine. He went back to where she was at, and he tried to get her back. Okay, and so she sees him. He's coming. She sees him, and he's at the door, and she invites him into her house, in her father's house. So the man decided to go after her and try to persuade her to return to him. He took his servant and 2 donkeys with him. The girl showed the Levite into the house, and when the father saw him, he gave him a hearty greeting. The Levite, the father insisted that he stay, and so he stayed for 3 days. The couple had their meals and spent the nights there. On the morning of the 4th day, so he was already trying to get her back, but for some reason the father kept kind of like, stay another night, stay another night. And he was there for four nights. Let go. For 4 nights. Okay, 4th day, they woke up early and got ready to go. But the girl's father said to the Levite, have something to eat first. You'll feel better. You can go later. So the 2 men sat down and ate, drank together. Then the girl's father told him, please spend the night and enjoy yourself. So this is going on to the 5th day. The Levite got up to go, but the father urged him to stay. So he spent another night there. Early in the morning of the 5th day, he started to leave, but the girl's father said, eat something, please. Wait until later in the day. So the 2 men ate together. When the man, his concubine, and the servant once more started to leave, the father said, look, it's almost evening now. You might as well stay all night. It will be dark soon, so stay here and have a good time. Tomorrow you can get up early for the trip. So he kept doing this, like over and over again, where the Levite, he was getting tired of it. And it was like, you know what, I stayed longer than I wanted to. I'm ready to leave, and I had it. I'm leaving. This is it. We're leaving. So they ended up coming across this old man after they got their things, the donkeys and the servants, and his 2 servants, and he started heading, and then he was trying to go into these. He finally did leave. Okay, he ended up finally leaving the house with his concubine. So he started leaving, and he was going to different, like different tribes and different places, to stay at, because evidently, it's going to be a long, they didn't have cars in those days, or trains or planes or nothing like that. So it's going to be a nice long, walk, like literally walk. And I'm pretty sure the distance between one area to another were probably miles and miles and miles and miles long. Okay, I don't think they were short at all. So finally, while they were there, an old man came by at the end of the day's work on the farm. He was originally from the hill country of Ephraim, but he was now living in Gibeah. The other people were there from the tribe of Benjamin. The old man noticed the traveler in the city square and asked him, where do you come from and where are you going? So the Levite answered, we have been in Bethlehem in Judah, and now we are on our way home, deep in the hill country of Ephraim. And no one will put us up for the night, and no one will put us up for the night, even though we have food and straw for our donkeys, bread and wine for my concubine and me, and my servants as well. We have everything we need. So the old man, heard this and said, well, you're welcome in my home. I'll take care of you. You don't have to spend the night in the square. So he took them home with him and fed their donkeys. His guests washed at their feet and had a meal. This is where it gets really, really like crazy, because like I said, sometimes we don't hear about these stories, or they don't talk about these stories in church, and this is probably why. So they were enjoying themselves when all of a sudden some sexual perverts from the town surrounded the house and started beating on the door. They said to the old man, bring out the man that came home with you. We want to have sex with him. But the old man went outside and said to them, no, my friends, please, don't do such an evil, immoral thing. This man is my guest. So he said, look, here is his concubine. I couldn't believe he did that. I was like, holy cow. He goes, look, here is his concubine and my own virgin daughter. I'll bring them out now and you can have them. Like what? Like, you know, the concubine wasn't even his to begin with, and he's like offering them, offering not only her, but his daughter as well. I was like, holy cow. Like, take them, but leave this guy alone. I was like, I was already mortified. Okay. So, and he goes, and I'll bring them out and you can have them, do whatever you want with them, but don't do such an awful thing to this man. But the men would not listen to him. So the Levite took his concubine. Now this is the guy, okay, the one that didn't want to stay at the house and took this girl, you know, which was lawful in those days. He was, you know, he was able to do it. But the men would not listen, so the Levite took his concubine and put her outside with them. It's bad enough this old man did it. Luckily, he didn't do it to his daughter, but he put his own concubine out there. Like, no, have her. Like, just gave her to them. So I was like, holy cow. So, but the men would not listen, so the Levite took his concubine and put her outside with them. They raped and abused her all night long and didn't stop until morning. At dawn, the woman came and fell down at the door of the old man's house where her husband was. Now, at that time, I don't know why they weren't married. I don't know why they called him her husband, because that's not what a concubine is. But I don't know. That's what it says here. Maybe in another version of the book, maybe it says something different. With her husband, I just finished drinking coffee. That's why I'm burping a lot. But the men, okay. At dawn, the woman came and fell down at the door of the old man's house where her husband was. She was still there when daylight came. Her husband got up that morning, and when he opened the door to go on his way, he found his concubine lying in front of the house with her hands reaching for the door. He said, "Get up, get up, let's go." But there was no answer, so he put her body across the donkey and started on his way home. Evidently, the girl died. You know, it's like, yeah, went through all that. But she tried to, you know, get in the house, but it was too late. And started on his way home. When he arrived, he went to the house and got a knife. He took his concubine's body, cut it into 12 pieces, and sent one piece to each of the 12 tribes of Israel. Everyone who saw it said, "We have never heard of such a thing. Nothing like this has ever happened since the Israelites left Egypt. We have to do something about this. What will it be?" So again, it's just like, this is just as horrible. What are you looking for?
Ruler.
A ruler. I don't have one right now. You're gonna have to wait, okay? Yeah, you're gonna have to wait. Let's see, do I have one here? Yeah. So to me, that was terrible. That for a thing like that to happen was just, to me, like really, really messed up. Not only did he, you know, took this girl who didn't want to go with him in the first place. So she goes home and she tries to stay as long as she can, and then he goes to get her, only to end her life. Like, it doesn't even seem like he even cared about her. He just needed her, but not for love or anything like that. She was just something that he needed, I guess. Because when I looked up the word concubine, it says a concubine is a woman who lives with a man but has lower status than his wife or wives, which I find like, but isn't that what a lot of women go through now? I mean, you're not really married and you just live with someone. I mean, like, it's like almost like having a mistress, no? I mean, that's how I see it. And yet they have less status than if they did have a wife. Well, wives back then, because now it's just a wife. But it's almost like the same as now. But to know that, he didn't care so much that he just, because he didn't want to go through any abuse or whatever, so he let her go through it. And that was a big mistake. Big mistake. So why am I saying that? Because he was a priest, remember? He was supposed to be godly. Yeah. God didn't like that. So let's see what the commentary has to say about this. So I went to Judges 19, and this is what it said. Okay. So the sad history of the Israel moves now from idolatry to immorality and civil war. If sin is not dealt with wrath, it is spread like a plague and destroys. The basic cause of Israel's plight was their independence from God and their indifference to his law. Again, they just all wanted to do what they wanted to do and not really obey the law. Nothing can be right when every man does what is right in his own eyes. It was a time of moral and spiritual darkness. And that was a lot. That happened a lot in the 1800s, I think, further down the line, where everything just, in the Romans days, it was just like the dark. It was called the Dark Ages, right? Anyway, the Levite was not a good example of a spiritual leader. He had a concubine, which was permitted and regulated by law, but not really approved by God. Like, yeah, even God didn't like that idea. His main interest was eating, drinking, and enjoying life. He had been a man of discipline and spiritual wisdom. He would never have caused all the trouble. He had no godly influence on the people whose lives he touched, and his evil treatment of his concubine was inexcusable. When spiritual leaders fail to obey God and set godly examples, the church and the community suffer, and ultimately the whole nation decays. One incident of lawlessness can cause a national crisis. It makes a difference when God's people are truly the salt and light in a decaying and dark society. So later on, because he did this thing, which he cut up this poor girl's body and sent every 12 pieces to the 12 tribes of Israel. They were like, they're not having this. Whoever did this, they're going to pay for it. Someone's going to pay for what was done to this girl, because they were like, they're not having it. But yeah, it just seems like when I was reading this, and I guess that's how come, like, we should be like really ready to spread the good news, because it's because of the good news that people can understand how to live life peacefully and good. Because without it, people are just going and doing whatever they want, hurting and abusing whoever they want. And in those days, they didn't have any real leaderships or government or kings or whatever. So they were running amok, doing whatever they want and getting away with it. Literally getting away with it. Nobody was being arrested. No one was being taken to prison because they didn't have that. So that was, kind of like an eye-opener, let's say, to what's going to happen down the line. But the reason I was talking about how grim this story was, because I remember, I don't know where it was, I read it somewhere, I remember reading it somewhere. And what happened, I think it was in Shakespeare's day, where people would go like to a theater, kind of like, it would be like a theater where they would have chairs, they would have a stage, and everybody would come, a lot of people would come, sit down and listen to this one guy talk about a story, a grim stories, and they would come every week, almost like going every Friday, Saturday to go watch a horror movie, at the nearest theater. Oh, it's a movie night, let's go watch a horror flick. So, but these people weren't watching a movie because, well, they didn't have that, yet. They didn't have that. But what they had was the stories, the grim stories of the Bible. And that was their entertainment. These graphic stories that came from no other than the Word. When was the last time you heard about this concubine being chopped in 12 pieces and sent to the 12 tribes of Israel? When was the last time you heard that at church? I'm not making fun of it. Don't get me wrong. But it's just, there's just certain things you will not hear unless you read it for yourself. Unless you read it for yourself, guys. So that, to me, was really grim. And it really upset me. Because I was like, how could he do that? How can he... Jeez. But again, there was no... And it's not like he felt bad about it. I mean, you even heard, well, I don't know. It's just that, get up, let's go. And the girl was trying to reach for help because she was dying. And she didn't make it. She died probably right at that moment. And when he realized she was dead, he just grabbed her, threw her over the donkey, and went on his way. That's crazy. That's crazy. But I tell you guys, got to read it for yourself. You got to get in there. If you want to know more about the Word or more about the stories, I'm sure you can look up the story, you can Google it, you can get commentaries, and it can always share, it can always share with you more information if that's what you're looking for. Okay, so guys, thank you for joining me tonight, and that is it. And then we're going to go to the next one, which is, it's going to be Israel prepares for war in chapter 20. Okay, so that's what we're going to be reading next week. So I try to jump ahead because I didn't want to read the whole chapter because it does take long. And as a matter of fact, I'm going to try to shorten it because chapter 20 is really long. It's really long. So I'm going to try to shorten it so it won't take up too much time and we can get to the meat of the story. Okay? Okay, so thank you guys again. Don't forget, like a fish in the sea, so glad you caught me. And we will catch you next week, Friday. And like always, don't forget to like, subscribe, and definitely comment. Okay, guys, we'll see you next week. Bye.